Hello everybody. In today's video I would like to demonstrate the process of cleaning aperture contacts on three specific Minolta models. That'll be Minolta X-700, which is currently in front of me, Minolta XG, and then Minolta XD series. The reason I want to discuss and demonstrate the process because it's fairly simple to resolve an issue that is pretty common in these cameras of flickering light meter LEDs. So if you feel that your camera is exhibiting similar symptoms where you move your lens ring left, right, and or just move an aperture ring and you feel that your LEDs are not steady, they're just jumping, pointing up and then suddenly pointing down, or then just stabilize over a certain period of time, chances are that those contacts are oxidated and just need to be cleaned. It's worth trying. It's not too complicated. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show it to you on three different models, starting with the Minolta X700. So let's basically, first we're going to remove this lens mount, 4 screws. It's simple enough. Okay, what you want to do is when you remove or about to remove the last screw, hold this lens mount with your fingers, okay, because there's a spring controlling the aperture ring and it can snap out at you. So you just hold it like that, then hold on to this plastic tab and then remove the lens mount. And then what we'll do is carefully remove this aperture ring, okay, like so. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and remove this washer too, and this is our aperture contact. So what I do is I use this specific eraser. It works for me. Okay, I'm sure there's some other ones that you can use, but this works for me. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of oxidation here on this contact, and this especially right here in the middle. So chances are that when your aperture moves left to right and it reaches this middle section, when you look at the LEDs, it could be just jumping or it could just be unstable. So it's just worth always cleaning this area like so. And this is what I usually do on all of these cameras, regardless whether a customer complains about it or not. It's part of our standard procedure. Okay, it looks completely different now. And what I'll do next is wipe it with an alcohol. Okay, then I'll do the same thing with these contacts. Just the alcohol. I'm not going to apply my eraser on it at all because it could easily damage it. These contacts could be very sensitive. All right, now it's a process of reassembly. I'm going to put this washer back. Then we'll, as you can see here, there's a plastic tab. One side of the spring is connected to it. It's on this particular model, it's really sitting really well. Okay, on the other subsequent model I'm going to cover, it's not really that it doesn't sit too well and it comes out, so there's a different solution on it. So this side of it, there's a hook right here that we're going to attach it to. So I'm going to go ahead and position the spring so it attaches it to the hook, which it does. Now I'm gonna place it this side down first and start rotating clockwise. As soon as you reach, I'd say about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock mark here, You're gonna push this down a little bit so you don't damage the contact over this plastic frame. And boom, it's seated well enough. Now you're gonna hold on to it with your fingers. Now you're gonna position the metal mount and hold on to it until you put one of your screws and start putting the screws in. Don't screw it all the way, okay? Leave it that way. You see it's a little bit loose here. Now do it diagonally here. Now I'm gonna screw it all the way down, both of them. Okay, and nothing is holding the aperture ring. It's fully seated. Now we're gonna put the remaining screws back. There you go. So here's your X700. Cleaning of the aperture contact is simple enough to do, and in many cases it will resolve this particular problem. If it doesn't, there could be some additional issues with it beyond just cleaning the contacts. But that's a quick 10-minute work for you to clean it if you have enough tools and patience. All right, so let's move this X700 out of the way, and let's grab Minolta XG series. Currently I've got XG9 on my bench, and again, tested right now. There's a spring and it works well. Process is the same. 4 screws. We're going to dismount them and remove them and dismount the lens mount. All right, now we're gonna need to be a little bit careful here, holding on to this plastic frame. Now we're gonna remove the mount, and again, carefully remove aperture ring. There we go. All right, so we're gonna remove it here as well. There we go. Okay, same process. You see a little bit of oxidation here. It could, or rather may or may not be significant enough. I've seen where this contact is completely blacked out, quite literally, and absolutely no metering except for a little bit of flickering. This is actually not that bad, but it wouldn't hurt to clean. And that's what we'll do next. Right, I'm going to wipe it with alcohol. There we go, perfect. So we're going to start the reassembly process. We'll put this washer in place. Now what I do want to demonstrate, so the construction of this aperture ring is slightly different than the one on X700, where this pin actually is about the same width as the hole, so chances are that as soon as it's placed in, it's going to come out. So in some models I've seen that there's a little soldering joint or a melting spot here, which as you can see here, there is one here, so we don't have to worry about it. Okay, but if you feel that there isn't one and there's a chance for the spring to come out as you put it in, which it probably will, what I usually do, I grab my soldering iron and I just ever so gently touch up here. It creates a closing tab, so to speak, preventing this spring from coming out. All right, so let's take a look. Let's put this washer back. I'm going to go ahead and straighten out these contacts. Slightly different design of these contacts. And yet again, we're going to clean it with a cloth or whatever you have, tissue that's got some cleaning substance on it. In my case, it's alcohol. All right, it's ready to put back. So what we'll do, it's the same process. We're gonna attach the spring to the hook and then position our aperture ring and rotate it clockwise. Push it down a little bit. All right, seems like it's seated. So we won't know until we actually put the ring and secure it with at least one screw, just to make sure it's rotating properly. Let's do that. Perfect, okay. Again, it's not all the way tight, so we'll leave it that way for now. Now we're gonna tighten it. Still nice and loose, as it should be. And then we're gonna put the rest of the screws back in place. Excellent. All right, so on the XG models, additionally to cleaning the aperture contacts, there's also similar style contacts on the shutter speed dial, which will require a full disassembly of the top cover and the shutter speed dial, okay? That actually contributes to the same exact problem. So this may not be enough on the XG model, resolving or solving the issue of this inconsistent light metering or flickering of the light meter LEDs, okay? So you may need to, if you're adventurous enough to do it on your own, opening up the top cover, disassembling the shutter speed dial, and cleaning up that area exactly the same way I did with the eraser and the alcohol, okay? Then it should resolve it completely, okay? But for now, we're only gonna discuss the aperture side of it, okay? So that was our XG9 procedure, and then lastly, we're gonna tackle the XD11. That could also apply to XD, XD5. Okay, it's pretty much similar design as far as this portion is concerned, okay? All right, so let's start the process. It's always the same. 4 screws. And by the way, it's fully operational, as you can see here. Okay, I'm holding on to this lens mount, and then I'm gonna remove it. There we go. Now I can carefully take out the aperture ring. There we go. Now, as you can see, it's a completely different story when it comes to the spring. The spring is designed differently, and it's not even attached to this plastic ring. Okay, these are my contacts here, and the contacts here, and here's our spring. And you got to be careful with this spring, because there's a metal hook that is sitting on the body of the lens mount here. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this spring for now. Remove the washer. Here's our contacts here. Okay, so we're gonna follow the same framework. Cleaning these contacts, you see how dirty they are right now. That can definitely contribute, and you've seen it many times. I'm sure those who own XD11s, that it's a common problem with them. right, now we're going to go ahead and wipe it off with alcohol. That's sufficient enough. You see how much dirt it gathered after I cleaned it with the eraser. So that's pretty significant. Okay, and then just ever so gently in one direction away from the contacts. All right, so now getting to the interesting part, reassembly. This is going to be a little bit different. The way I do it, I grab this side, because you can see here, it's got a little hook here on one side. This is the side that goes on the aperture ring. What I'll do, I'm gonna attach it here where it needs to sit, okay? It's gonna be very difficult otherwise to manipulate this ring properly. I'm right now, sometimes it's actually glued. There's a glue that sits there, but over time it dries out and it's pretty much useless. It just comes off. Again, I'm gonna use my iron to ever so gently put a little mark here. Plastic melts real quickly, so I don't need to hold it for too long, but it's just enough to keep this spring in place permanently or temporarily, doesn't matter. Once it's inside the cavity of the lens mount, it doesn't have to be attached to it, because there's really no way for it to loosen up, because this part of the aperture ring is going to be fully touching the body of the camera. All right, so this, as you can see here, is not loose, it's attached. I'm going to go ahead and find my hook here, which might be difficult to see, but I'm sure you'll see it when you disassemble it. I'm gonna go ahead and align a loop with it, attach it, and the same way I'm gonna go clockwise, and there we go. Okay, now it's properly seated. We'll see if the spring is correctly attached to the body, and once we put the mount on, so here's our lens mount. Let's put a screw. Okay, perfect. Okay, you can see it's properly rotating left to right, right to left, whatever you want to call it. And now we are gonna put the rest of the screws back. This one, that one, and the last screw. Now, just like with a XG series, there's one more area on the XD model that can contribute, and in many cases will contribute to this issue with light metering. And this is this ASA assembly. Not the shutter dial like it was on the XG, but the ASA assembly has the same series of contacts and the surface that needs to be cleaned. So this will involve a little more in-depth disassembly of the camera. Top cover has to come off. This dial has to come off, and you're basically going to use the same eraser to clean this area, clean the contacts, to ensure that the aperture and the metering is correct. But this is definitely going to improve things. To what degree, that remains to be seen. Some cameras still have these contacts that are clean enough and the apertures are dirty, so this will resolve the problem. But if both the ASA contacts and the apertures are equally congested and dirty, then you're going to have to address both areas accordingly. Okay, so this will do it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you with your issues. Thank you again.